Welcome to the Inside Startup Investing Podcast, the only podcast where you can invest in every guest. On this episode, I will be speaking with majority owner of the Carrick Rangers, Michael Smith. The Carrick Rangers are actually an 85-plus-year-old European football club that plays in the direct Premiership, which is the highest professional level of Irish football. This is your opportunity to be an investor in a professional football team that has a chance to play in the UEFA Cup, the most prestigious European football cup, bringing together teams from across the European continent. A few things that stood out to me about the Carrick Rangers were, first, this team has actually been profitable for a number of years. Less than 10% of all clubs across the entirety of Europe actually operate with a profit. Building a sustainable business that can perform at a high level year after year isn't easy. But with strong stewardship of the club, Michael and the team are running a sustainable business and team. Second, the Carrick Rangers may very well be one of the best value clubs available for investment in Europe right now. You see, for the past decade, the UK professional football leagues have been picked over for investment by everyone from Hollywood stars like Rob McElhenney to executives like Michael Eisner to Middle East wealth and Russian oligarchs. To put it mildly, finding good value within the UK markets has diminished greatly, with bloated new values. But the Irish leagues have been looked over and present an opportunity to get in at a great value for investors. Lastly, the Carrick Rangers have a terrific owner in Michael, who spent 20 plus years helping to grow Nike on a global stage, and he is deeply passionate as a fan who mixes that with the right set of aligned business acumen and vision for where the Carrick Rangers can go, and capitalize on the ever-growing globalization of the game of football. So with that, let's get on to the show, and welcome Michael. For those who don't know who the Carrick Rangers are, tell us a little bit about your team and why you guys decided to raise capital in this way.
Carrick Rangers Football Club, the men's team competes in the Irish Premiership, so the Northern Ireland Football League Premiership, which is the top flight of the country. We also have a women's team. We have an academy. The club has been around since 1939.
Wow.
It is located in Carrick, Fergus, Northern Ireland, which is about 20 minutes outside of Belfast on the Belfast Lough. Beautiful setting. Town's probably best known for the Carrick Fergus Castle, which is just this incredibly intact castle from the Norman days. But it's a club that is, over the years has played at various levels. We've been in the Premiership now for a number of years. One of our great claims to fame is 1976, when we were a second division team, won the Irish Cup and went to the European Cup Winners Tournament and won the first round, but then fell to Southampton of England after.
Wow. So certainly a well-established organization, that is for sure. Yeah. Where does a team find itself today when you think about raising this round of funding? Is it to help grow the team? Is it to help it, move up the rankings? What does that look like? Why are you doing this now?
Yeah, we have some pretty big ambitions. Because we do play in the top flight, we have access to European Champions League, Europa Conference League, and that ability to play across the water. But as we look at what we're trying to accomplish over the next few years, one, we want to be competitive. We want to be contending for the Irish Cup, and we want to be playing in Europe. That is part of our 5-year ambition. We also formed the women's team last year, and we're looking to get the team within the next 5 years into the Premiership and competitive there also for European play. We are currently in line for stadium funding. We're looking to, we've made a bid for that and anticipate hearing about this summer that will allow us to really create the premier grounds in Northern Ireland. Looking forward to that. And we're looking to build out a tremendous international fan base. And then probably the most important thing where most of this investment will go is we're looking to build an elite, full-time global academy with links to much bigger clubs on many, many different continents, and the ability to really develop players both for our club, but also to be able to transfer and collect those transfer fees back from teams in England, teams across Europe. And that's really, when you think about football clubs and how they make money, obviously revenue from ticket sales, from sponsorships, player sales tend to be one of the bigger opportunities.
Yeah, and just to hit on that, for folks who don't follow kind of European football in general, instead of really seeing trades, right, of players like we see here in the United States, where you trade a player for another player, or two or three players, oftentimes it's for money. And they could be very, very significant sums of money to the tunes of tens of millions and even more we've seen, right?
Absolutely. And there's a sell-on fee when you develop. A lot of people don't understand that. It's not just that first transaction. A player may sell for £100,000, but then they go from that club to another bigger club at, let's say, £5 million. The academy that developed them is getting a sell-on portion of that. And so,
yeah, that's amazing. Now, you mentioned something else in there as part of your ambitions is getting to kind of play in the European Championships. For those who aren't as knowledgeable and aware of that, what does that look like? How does that work? And then monetarily, what could that lead to?
It can be a big payday. Our our chief rivals, actually qualified for Champions League this year. They did drop out, but when they dropped out, they dropped down to the Europa Conference League, and then they played through kind of what's called the qualifying stage, and made it into the league stage or the group stage. That's about an $8 million payday for them. Wow. As you first, when you first qualify, our league is a little bit lower on the coefficient, and so we play qualifying rounds. There's a few $100,000 there, but by the time you pay your expenses of getting players to and from, it's modest. It's not like getting to the group stage and being able to host somebody like Chelsea or a club of that stature.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. And then in terms of building out your academy, I think that's really interesting. Is the thought there that you could kind of take the Carrick Rangers brand, which is this long, well-established, professional football organization, and be able to have people join this academy on a global scale, whether, I live here in North Carolina. Maybe you have a Carrick Rangers division here where you could join and learn from the Carrick Rangers programming. Is that the thought? Is you could have these academies utilizing your brand all around the world?
That's exactly the thought. We want to be known as a world-class elite academy, and it's going to take us a while to build into that. But that's what we're using the seed money from this investment is to work on that, to have links with major clubs. In the major leagues across Europe, with other academies in the U.S. and Asia, and really make this a destination for kids that really want to further their career. And we really see two pipelines. We see the ability to fuel our own club, but then also be able to sell and transfer those players' rights to other.
Now, the English Football League, right, is obviously extremely well known and extremely well capitalized. If you're in the Premier League, right, those teams can be worth billions of dollars. What does the Irish kind of leagues look like in terms of, average valuations and how big the market is and the TV right deals? Can you give us a sense of like orders of magnitude, what that kind of looks like?
Valuation would be difficult to put a number on it. What I will say is, from a TV rights, the league has deals with Sky Sports. In fact, one of our games earlier this year was covered by Sky Sports, which is phenomenal because you get to be seen in 40-something countries around the world and millions of viewers. Also with BBC, and then with 11 Sports. So outside the UK and Ireland, most of our games are carried on one football platform, which is a live streaming platform. And it's one of the things that for the people that invest in our club and become fans, they have a way to watch most of our games. And it's been a great asset for us as a company. I believe the Irish League is one of the most undervalued sports properties out there. And that I've said this for a while. there were a couple of major investors and teams before I arrived. I was the first American to invest, and I was actually had a sense of urgency because I believe this is so undervalued, and I think we will see. I believe over the next couple of years, when it's time to think about TV rights, I really believe that we're going to be in a position to demand even more than that we have today.
Well, let's hit on that though, because I think something we're seeing more and more of, just trend line wise, across the globe, is this globalization of football, right? And not that, I mean, it's always been a global sport, but the ability, here in the United States to watch Premier League games and championship level games and even League One games at home on a Saturday. And that's not something that existed, even 5-10 years ago. The Irish Football League is certainly probably a couple steps behind that. Do you see this entering more of that global stage? I know there's, Sky and whatnot that you're already kind of tied into, but in that next media rights deal, is there gaining momentum in the Irish League being covered more deeply?
There is, and that is part of my mission or objective with some of the work that we're doing here is to raise that profile. Whatever we can do as a club to raise the profile of the league, we're going to do. And I think what's unique is about the Irish League. It's still that football that a lot of people remember from 50 years ago, before you had players signing $10 million contracts. And it's tough. It's physical. You don't see people. You don't see a lot of diving. You don't see people rolling around on the ground after they've been, brushed. And so it's an exciting, entertaining game, and that's one of the reasons I believe that there's a hunger, I think, for that kind of raw football again.
In terms of the infrastructure of the Irish leagues, is it the same as the English football leagues, where you can both move up and down in terms of what level of football you play at? That's
one of the reasons I was very interested in the league. The Northern Ireland Football League operates the top three divisions, so the Championship, the Premiership, and the Intermediate League. And so those three divisions. Below that, there's multiple other divisions with hundreds of teams, but the top three operated by the Northern Ireland Football League. We have 12 teams in the Premiership. The bottom team is relegated. The second to bottom team has a two-leg home and away playoff with the team that comes in second in the championship, and so there's a chance for the bottom two to be relegated. What's interesting, one of the things that's interesting about the structure and makes it entertaining, is we have 4 spots in Europe. So our champion, the Champions League, the second place team to Europa Conference League, the Irish Cup winner to Europa Conference League, and then there's a third place through 7th place playoff, which we were in last year, for the fourth and final Europa Conference League. So it keeps things very interesting. Everybody's almost across the board is playing for something, either to avoid relegation, to get into the playoff, or obviously to win the league or win the Irish Cup. We also have a split at the end of the season, which is interesting. We play every team 3 times in the league. And then after those 33 games, you split into a top half and a bottom half. So the teams that are really competing for the championship are playing against the other best 5 teams in the league.
Oh, cool.
And then home or away is decided by, evening out the numbers, since it was an odd number of home and away. And then the bottom half is basically playing a combination of, let's get that 7th spot so I can make the playoffs. Yeah. I'm playing for, let me get out of the relegation zone so that I can stay up for the year.
You've talked a little bit about what you see in this club and the opportunity for the club. But can you hit on us a little bit, what led you to become an investor? What was your background, and what compelled you to be like, I have to be a part of this team?
Yeah. Well, I've wanted to invest in football for quite a while, or soccer. And, when you're not quite good enough to play professionally, the next best thing is to to own a team or be associated with the team in some form or fashion. And I started doing a considerable amount of research. I had some great help from a young man who is going into the career around mergers and acquisitions. If anybody wants his reference, I'm happy to give it. But looked at leagues really all around the world. Everything from like third division in Portugal, second division in Scotland, first division in Costa Rica, and just kept coming back to Northern Ireland Football League. In fact, it's interesting. The very first team he told me about was Carrick Rangers Football Club. That was our first meeting. He told me about it, and then he said, I'm going to go explore all these other leagues for you as well. But we kept coming back to Northern Ireland Football League and kept coming back to Carrick Rangers, and eventually narrowed in. The league is one of the ones that had the highest percentage of profitable teams of all these. And it was also appealing that it was top flight. That is an opportunity for a different level of government grants. It's a different level of opportunity for, profit sharing in UEFA. There, and obviously, as we talked about, opportunities to play in Europe and the financial benefits that come with that. So, that was a big part of why I narrowed in. And sure enough, as I went and met with Peter Clark, who's our chairman, and the board, it was very clear that that was a club I wanted to be associated with. They've been on an upward trajectory since Peter took his share of ownership 6 years ago. I've really been driving his vision, and just completely aligned, and it's committed to running this thing sustainably. There's a small percentage of football clubs that actually make money. Most people are investing for the equity gain,
right?
Not the cash flow day to day, and that's why in many cases it's a billionaire's game. But this club has been profitable for 10 plus years. For me, it is a passion project. This is something I plan on passing down to my children, and who knows, a generation from now, 2 generations from now, they may make quite a bit of money. But for me, it's a passion project at this point.
Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense. And certainly, I think a lot of the owners of these clubs fit in that same bucket. But I think one of the smart things you're doing is you're trying to find an underappreciated asset rather than, I sometimes I do look at these Premier League teams and even some of the Championship League teams, and the prices people are now paying, right, especially with Middle East money coming in and whatnot, they've just been so jacked up. You wonder, is there a bubble forming? Is there really a way for these things to continue to increase in value? I know the TV rights deals get bigger and bigger, but I don't know. It's certainly a very frothy time, but you don't hear that much about the Irish leagues, and typically when you're not hearing about it, it's likely the best time to kind of come in on the opportunity. It obviously has a very storied history. It's in kind of the premiership level of Irish football. When you look at kind of your team, what are the things that you feel like you guys are doing really, really well? And then just fundamentally, again, as a team, what are the things that you guys want to work on in terms of, fostering and taking care of this team going forward?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're making really good progress on is our fan experience. We and this is also another revenue stream for us. We rolled out Plus Fan platform. We were the first people to roll out their platform, which gives fans a unique insider experience and the ability to interact with players, with coaches. To see the live stream. We did a live stream for all of our women's first team games, our U20s, some select academy games. And as I mentioned, the men's games are available for Radio 1 football. I think that we're, building that fan engagement and really working on building our fan base. I think is something that we're focused on over the next couple of years, really. But I think we're doing well with this fan engagement platform. It's been a good start for us. We recently brought in really a legend in the Irish League, Stephen Baxter, to be our manager for the men's team. And he, here's somebody that comes in with 15 trophies. He's immediately changed the trajectory that we've been on this season. After we had a record-setting season last year under Stuart King, he just did a phenomenal job last year. But now we've got this legend that quite frankly, players really across Northern Ireland really want to come play for him. He's got that kind of reputation for developing players and for winning. And so we feel really good about the management staff that we're putting in place. And we feel good about the women's program. It's in its early years, launching the women's academy this spring, U9, U11, U13s, and we'll fill the gap between them and the senior teams.
Oftentimes with startups and things like that, I'll actually ask, what does 12 or 24 months out look like for you? What does success look like? And that's because it's so hard to predict long-term what's going to happen for especially a company like a startup. But for an organization like you, I actually do see this as more of a, you're looking for long-term, dramatic changes to the overall structure of your business, right? You've been around forever. It's not like you're going anywhere in the next 12 to 24 months. So when you think long-term, let's say 10 years from now, what does success look like for the Carrick Rangers?
10 years from now, we are a global brand, and our academy is truly an elite academy where players want to come play. We're competing for the championship regularly, both men's and women's, and we're packing the stadium. We're filling up what will be at that point a new stadium, and that we're packing it every week.
For those who are on the line, they're thinking about investing, but they're not just there yet. I'll give you the last word. What would you say? What's kind of your last pitch to them?
If you're going to invest in a car company, a tech company, you're not cheering them on, and you're not watching them on Saturday, and you don't develop the emotional connection. And quite frankly, everybody that invests, I'm making an effort to make sure that they are, regardless of the level they invest at, that they are an insider, that they're part of the process, that they're really getting the full experience of being an owner. Right? This past 15 months or so since I've been the majority owner has been one of the most joyous times of my life, and I absolutely love it. Both the hard decisions and the easy decisions and the wins and losses, it's all wonderful. And if I can share that experience with as many people as possible, I would love to do that.
If you like what you heard on the show today, you can check out more about the Carrick Rangers at kingscrowd.com. You can now invest on WeFunder until March 31st, 2025. And please like, subscribe, and share our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so more listeners like you can find us. Thanks for listening.